Everybody, nice to meet you guys. Some of you guys might know me and seen my story and stuff. But,
hold it.
Oh, sorry. Some of you guys might know me and some of you might have seen my story, but so what happened to me, I'm not really going to get into the details, but I was held against my will at my work. They tried to force testing on us all, and before I went there, I said, are you guys going to be COVID testing? They said, we cannot force you to COVID test. Just come out here and work for 30 days. So they flew us out there on a plane. We landed behind the gates and stuff. And immediately when we got off the gates, they said, everybody line up for COVID testing. So I snuck away, went to my room, went to sleep, just ignored it. And the very next day they came and tried to harass me about it and stuff. I tried to fight it. I said, you guys told me that you're not going to force me to COVID test. They said, we cannot force you to COVID test, but you can get out the gates right now if you don't. And where I was is about a 24-hour walk. They wouldn't give me a bus. They wouldn't give me a plane. So I was backed up against a wall. There was no taxis, no buses, nothing like that. So I just complied with them. I started getting COVID tested. So it was supposed to only be one time that they tested me for the whole shutdown I was there. And before the first week was over, they started saying, we're gonna have to test you guys once a week. Before that 1 week was over, it was every 72 hours. Before that 72 hours was over, it was every 48 hours. And then I tested positive on one of the ridiculous PCR tests without being sick, no fever, no symptoms. And when they tried to bring me to isolation, I refused their medical treatment. I said, show me the gate. I want to go home. I quit. They wouldn't let me leave. They held me against my will. They wouldn't show me the gate. When I finally found the gate, it was locked. They had all my badges that you have to scan to get out. They would not let me leave. They threatened me with jail time. They threatened me with calling the RCMP. And they told me I was going to be blacklisted for my career for life. It was supposed to be only for the pandemic, but they said, we're not going to let you back even if the pandemic ends. So I've officially been blacklisted. I only worked 2 weeks in my field, and they blacklisted me. They canceled all my jobs going up to next October. And the way that I got out was from people like you guys, and I just want to thank you guys for having me here. This is my first time in Calgary these last couple days. It's an absolutely beautiful place. Like, it's absolutely beautiful. You guys are amazing. And it was my Facebook friends that I don't even know in real life that came and rescued me. And together we ended up rescuing 3 other people from the camps in the same manner. And basically what I have to say to you guys is that your jobs and stuff, it's not worth it to stay at these jobs because you're not going to get paid once they start the COVID testing and vaccines. It's ridiculous because they said we would go back to work after the quarantine. Some of my friends are still in there. 24 days now they've been not getting paid. And it's ridiculous. Yeah, they don't pay you. Yeah,
it's tyranny.
Yeah, it's totally tyranny. But so what I have to say to you guys is if your workplace is going to start these pilot programs for COVID testing, like they had people 24 hours a day waiting for this to happen. They told us in the beginning that they were going to shorten the shutdown to 24 days, and they took all our days off and made us work 12-hour shifts in preparation for this to happen. So we knew before we even started working that there was something fishy going on.
It's fascism.
Totally. So basically what I have to say is all my friends and stuff, they were like, well, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But they're not getting paid anyways, you know. And because I refused the test, they blacklisted me right away. They sent me home eventually, but I had to find my own way home. So it was absolutely a disaster. And basically, silence is compliance. If you guys are there and you're just like okay with it, like it's not okay. You're complying and you're adding to this agenda that our corrupt government. I don't even believe they're actually in power legally. I think that it's totally illegal,
illegitimate.
And, yeah, it's illegitimate.
Illegitimate.
And, I don't support any of them, you know. They don't have the qualifications. They don't have any of the support. They're just bullying us around. And
more people have died from suicide than COVID.
Oh, totally. I believe it. You know, it messed me up being in these isolation camps. They fed me garbage food, like plain barley. And because I didn't comply, I got plain barley, frozen vegetables, rotten lettuce, coffee grinds in my coffee every day. Like, they did feed me, but they fed me such horrible food. And then I would send the pictures to my friends who were waiting for their dinner. They'd say, what's for dinner tonight? And I'd show them. And then an hour later, they'd say, well, that's weird, I got steak. And they'd send me pictures of steak, baked potatoes and stuff, chocolate bars and stuff like that. So they fed me pork fat and rotten lettuce and stuff, rotten fruit. It was absolutely horrible. And I had no recourse. they actually also held my approval to leave. So I got put in on the 11th. I had to write to the AHS for an approval plan. And on the 12th, it got approved, but they didn't give it to me till the 16th when I demanded the RCMP come and help me get out. So it was 5 or 6 days they held me illegally, and it's happening everywhere. And if you guys know anybody, you have to speak out because they need help. They might say they don't mind being there, but they need to get out of there. Like the people I rescued were, when I was leaving, there was a woman that was crying outside my window. She was begging her boss to get her help to get out. And everyone was laughing at her. There's like a smoke pit you can go to. And they were all laughing at her. And I went out and talked to her. They started laughing at me. And the biggest thing that you can do, guys, and I'm going to give you a piece of advice. It's if you see people that are in power, you look them right in the eye and say, how can you do this? How can you live with yourself for money to do this? Yeah, I said, you couldn't pay me enough to lock this lady up who's crying her eyes out, who's not even sick. She didn't even test positive at all.
It's on Canadian.
Yeah, totally, man. I don't even recognize this country anymore. It's absolutely ridiculous. So it's people like you that saved me. Like, I'm new to this stuff. This is my first time speaking in public, but you guys are all my heroes. Like, literally, I had nobody come and help me. And I'm friends with a lot of you people on Facebook. We're all heroes, man. We're all heroes. It's absolutely amazing what one person can do if you say no. Like, just like Chris Guy said, you know, he taught me my rights and stuff, and I used them, and they didn't let me go, but I could have left. It's just I would have had to walk for 24 hours, but yeah, it's just absolutely insane. But you guys are my heroes, and everybody around the country and the world who's doing the same stuff, you're absolutely admirable to the rest of the world. And there's a lot of people asleep, but hopefully our stories are going to get people awake. Like my mom, who has always been a denier of this stuff, when she was seeing her son locked up and just freaking out, she changed. She's a believer now. She's totally sharing all this stuff, and it's a victory for me because now I have somebody in my family that's actually a Freedom family member.
Yeah.
But anyways,
what was the name of the company that you worked for?
I'm not supposed to name it, but it was at Fort Mackay. It's CNRL. Okay. They held me against my will. And the security guards were total Nazis. They threatened me with violence. I've got video of it all. The nurses played head games with me for days. And yeah, they actually ended up shutting down that camp there for the isolation. They started shipping everyone out by the bus load. So when I was there, it was every 5 days the bus would come and you'd be able to leave if you were done your quarantine and go home. And when I spoke out and I started saving people from it, they started shipping in bus after bus after bus, and they took everybody out of there. So I took it as a win, but they have them at other plants now too. Like I was supposed to work at the Suncor plant, and they called me and said, you're not going to be working here now because you refuse COVID testing. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And you know, they're doing the 72-hour testing now starting on the 26th tomorrow. I got a tip from somebody. So it's don't do the rapid test, they'll get you. It's a fallacy. You know, they don't tell you how many cycles. The AHS was supposed to give me all this PPE and follow me and have me report every day. They just let me go out the door because they knew they had no evidence. And exactly, yeah. So ketchup too. I seen ketchup. Yeah. Crazy. But anyways, thanks for having me, you guys. You know, this is a beautiful city. I came here yesterday by accident, and I just kind of hung out, met some cool people. But thanks, guys.
So, like she said, I own a boxing studio in Inglewood, and I want to tell you a little bit of a story about a young man that came into my gym about a year ago.
I can take her if you want.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold it closer.
About a year ago, I had a young man walk into my boxing studio, and you can tell that this man has had some terrible decisions that he's made, and these decisions have led to a long path of heavy drug use. Now, he comes in, and I can tell this by the way he looks, by the way he talks, but that's okay, that's what we do. Come on in, let's get some work in, let's see what happens. Over the next few weeks, he asked questions, he showed up every single day. He worked really hard. He started building a network of friends and family, I guess is what you would call it, out of our clients at the gym. And he started seeing some real progress. Now, his mother calls me and says, you know, we have used all of our resources up. We've tried to find a way to clean him up. We've tried to find a way to keep him out of trouble. And the only thing that's worked so far is this. So thank you for having my son come to your gym and letting him get better. So a couple weeks go by and you start noticing he looks better, he feels better, he's mentally sharper, and he's not using drugs. That's the most important part. And I mean, this isn't an isolated incident. There are lots of people that go to these gyms and businesses for several reasons, for ways to fight what they're fighting. So you see him getting better, you see him doing better, and then we go into our first lockdown. And this first lockdown wasn't because of science. It wasn't because people are dying. It's because of the gross incompetence of our elected officials.
Yeah.
Gross incompetence of our elected officials.
Corruption.
They have absolutely no idea what we do in the real world. There's 15 people that we've elected that sit on top of everything. They decide who dies, who doesn't die, who prospers, who doesn't prosper, what businesses prosper, what businesses don't prosper. They've created a totem pole, and however this totem pole was designed, they designed it so there are winners and there are losers. Yep. So we go into this first lockdown, we come out. When we come out of this lockdown, I noticed that this young man that had been coming to the gym, he fell back. He kind of relapsed. I don't know if kind of is a word you can use with relapse. What I mean is, he's not doing as good as he was. He was using drugs again. But we're open back up again. Let's not worry about it. This isn't going to happen again. I had a real belief in the system. I had a real belief in the people of Alberta that this isn't going to happen again. And we are going to make it through this. So he gets back to work. We start hustling. And again, you start seeing this progress. All of a sudden, there's rumblings of a second lockdown. So there are groups like, say, Fitness Alberta and these other groups that start up to try to promote what we're doing, promote the mental health aspect, promote the physical health aspect, and let everybody know we're doing the right thing. But you also have people in these groups that are ignorant and grossly incompetent. Emily Slanoff of Crush Camp, Andrew and Grady of YYC Cycle, they decided they were going to go on the news and they were going to say, this is terrible for everybody. This is destroying our businesses. This is destroying the youth of our country. But we're going to do whatever the government tells us to do. Well, hey guys, thank you for single-handedly crushing any opportunity we had in negotiating with the government. You've now told them, we're going to do whatever you say because you guys are the professionals. So thank you, Emily, Andrew, and Grady for doing that. That's much appreciated. So I was trying to rally the groups at this point to do it, and their fight against me worked, and we didn't have enough support. So we go into our second lockdown. Again, this young man that walked into my gym relapsed again. So we open back up, he comes back in, he gets back to work, and he looks almost worse than when we first started. It's terrible, it really is. So we come back in, we get back to work, all of a sudden we hear third rumblings. We're going back into another lockdown. I started a campaign called We Are Not Closing. We had massive support across the province of gyms that were going to stick with me and open up. A lot of these gyms that we're going to support came from franchises. And these franchises came down on them and said, if you don't close your doors, we're going to pull your franchises. We're going to pull your support. So it left the independents like myself. I decided I was going to stay open. I dealt with the police rolling in on a group of 11-year-old kids. The police, AHS, the province, the city of Calgary, they roll in like we're criminals in a kids class. It was actually comical to see.
Wow.
So they roll in, they shut us down. They say we need to comply. I say, I'm not complying. I'm going to open my business tomorrow, just like I did today. And this went on.
Yeah!
We went on for another 2 weeks. And I couldn't fight any longer once it got to the point where it was immediate risk of me losing my business license. So they're basically like, no. We're going to crush your business. And if you want to try to fight, we're going to crush your business permanently. So we go through this whole ordeal. I hire legal, we fight a legal battle. I don't want to go too in depth in that, it's pretty long. If you want to check out that story, you can follow my social media, it's all right there. But we get into this third lockdown, I remain open for the 2 weeks. We just shut our doors last week. So everybody that was fighting along with me, all my customers that were coming in, everybody that was working, it was almost for nothing. We still had to shut our doors down. And we found out, after exploring every legal avenue we could go down, every appeal we could file, any injunction we could file, and what we found out is they're stacking the cards against us. They won't even show us the evidence that they used to decide that these lockdowns are what we're going on.
There is none.
No
None.
evidence. They're holding it back in court. And traditionally speaking, if they're stopping that in court, it doesn't fit their narrative. And even scarier, it might show that we need to be heading in the opposite direction. And maybe I'm wrong. But until they show us that evidence, how do we know? There's nothing. There's no science here. So we need to sit together. The only way this works, the only way we get out of this is mass non-compliance.
Yeah.
If everybody decides we're going to open our business, there's nothing they can do. Nothing. They're stuck. So we need mass non-compliance. We need everybody to explain that, like, people are dying. There are people dying. And they're going to continue to die until we can open up those doors and give them levels of support.
Yes.
So please, tell your friends, tell your families. If you know anybody that owns a business, let them know we got to do this together. And the more of us that do it, the more we're going to make, the more progress we're going to make. And the only way it's going to happen is mass non-compliance.
Non-compliance.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, and letting me speak today. I really wanted to talk today and kind of, again, further on what Chris Sky had started last week. We need to start taking some action. So I think it's wonderful that we all come here every week and we meet up and we congregate and we, support each other. But I think we need to do a little bit more. Now we've built this support, it's time to do more. So now what we need to do is get organized with groups like End Alberta Lockdown. We need to get organized with the organizers of this group. I mean, I think a lot of us don't realize, even just sending in a suggestion to the group, like, sometimes I just get an idea and I'm like, hey, why don't we do this? Or hey, why don't we do that? I go to the people where there's already a little bit of organization. For me, I'm on the board of directors for the Independence Party. And, I love it when our members send me an email and they say, hey, what's the party doing about this? What's the party stance on this? What are you doing? I can say a lot of things, but if we're not leading the way in action, then we're just talking.
Hear, hear. Yes.
So I encourage you all, whether it is writing a letter to your MLA, writing a letter to Jason Kenney, and even handing out flyers and giving people information. I mean, one of the big things, my big personal goal in this movement for me this year is going to be printing out flyers and walking down busy parks and just handing them out and having conversations with people. Our personal connection with people will drive far more change than putting out Facebook posts. Those are important too, just to get the awareness. But we need to create personal relationships. When you actually stand and talk to someone and look them in the eye, and there's no one that can, they don't have that bravery behind their keyboard, I guarantee you're going to end up in some really good conversation, some really good debate even. And that's another thing we have to get good at. Knowing our stance, believing in what we're doing, and having healthy debate. We have forgotten how to do this. We want to attack each other and hurt each other. That has to stop. No, we have to just stand in what we believe in, not take things personally, not get offended, and just talk to each other.
Yes.
So let's continue these conversations. I challenge every single one of you people that are here today to just go and talk to people, strangers on the street, whatever. If you can initiate a conversation, deliver a flyer, you're gonna make way more of an impact than anybody else. Like I said, my personal challenge to every single one of you people today, print out flyers. You know, you can get flyers from and the lockdown, from our party actually has some freedom flyers. There's so many groups out there. I'm not just even saying like my party, but there are so many groups, like freedom groups out there. They have information. So print that information out. Just spend a day on a Saturday, a nice day on a Saturday, and just set up a little table and just hand out information. You know, even set up a little table that says, you know, make a statement, prove me wrong. You know, whatever. Just do whatever you can do to make sure that everybody has the same information we do. Because a lot of people are still scared, they still have their head in the sand, and they don't leave their house and they watch mainstream media all day. So it's not that they wouldn't have some common sense if they were given some, but they don't give themselves the opportunity.
Rely on each other.
Rely on each other, exactly. And do this in groups too, actually. That's another thing, is when you are trying to have these conversations with people, make sure you're not by yourself, because unfortunately there are some people out there that may be aggressive, but hopefully not too many. I mean, that hasn't been most of my experience, so anyway, I'll end it on that. And again, thank you guys for all being here. Let's start taking action. Let's fight for our freedom, because it's time.
Yes!